Reality responds to whatever you keep interacting with, just like a social feed. Your attention is the click, the replay, the save, the repeat view, the comment in your mind. Every time you return to a thought, explain a problem, or emotionally charge a memory, you push it further into your personal algorithm. That is why certain situations feel like they keep reappearing. You are not being followed by bad luck. You are simply seeing the energetic version of your own viewing history. And once you understand that attention is not passive, everything begins to make sense. You do not manifest what you deserve. You manifest what you continually engage with. Even when you are complaining about it, even when you hate it, even when you want the opposite. The emotional interaction is the signal. This is why choosing what you give emotional screen time to matters. It's not because you must be perfect, but because whatever you keep returning to becomes the environment you mentally live in. Most people think they are simply describing their reality when they talk about what is wrong. They think they are explaining a problem in order to get rid of it. But description is recreation. When you speak from a place of frustration or worry, you are not just reporting what has happened. You are reactivating the emotional state connected to it. You strengthen the connection. You give it energy. You tell your inner algorithm that this is content you want to keep seeing. You are not punished for doing this. You are simply responded to. And because you care about how you feel, your system takes you seriously. So the more you justify it, retell it, defend it, or organize your thinking around it, the more it becomes the background tone of your life. Not because it is fate, but because it is familiar. Familiar becomes active. Active becomes visible. Visible becomes lived. You are not doing this on purpose. You are doing it because you care. When something feels heavy, you naturally want to explain why. You want someone to understand. You want relief. You want clarity. You want something to shift. You want the weight off your chest. But this instinct to explain is the very thing that keeps the weight in place. Not because emotion is bad, but because your emotional explanation becomes the drum you continue to beat. And if the beat is steady enough, life echoes it back to you. This is why certain themes repeat. Not because you are failing, but because your emotional attention has been looping in the same place for a long time. Once you see this, you stop blaming yourself. You begin recognizing how innocent your reactions actually are. You start seeing that negative emotion is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that something in your focus has stayed active for longer than it feels good. That is all. Your emotional system is not judging you. It is guiding you, showing you the gap between the life you want and the perspective you are currently holding. And the moment you soften the perspective, the entire emotional tone shifts. You do not need to jump from fear to joy. You only need to move toward relief, 1 degree at a time. This is how you climb the inner scale. This is how your vibration changes. This is how your reality begins rewriting itself. The reason emotional shifts matter is because you live in a universe that responds to the energy behind your focus, not the words in your mouth. You can say you want abundance, but if the emotional drum you are beating is one of tension or lack, the signal is mixed. You can say you want healing, but if you keep retelling the story of discomfort, the signal becomes contradictory. You can say you want love, but if you continually highlight what hurt you, the emotional momentum stays pointed in the opposite direction. It is not about lying to yourself. It is about recognizing that you cannot create a new experience while feeding the old one with your attention. Every story you repeat becomes a seed that grows in the soil of your emotional body. What you nurture survives. What you starve dissolves. You have the ability to become a selective observer. You can choose what receives your attention the way you choose what you watch, what you scroll, what you mute, what you block, and what you save. You can become someone who gives your emotional energy to what feels nourishing, peaceful, meaningful, or exciting, and withdraws it from what drains you. This does not mean ignoring your life. It means refusing to build a house inside the parts that hurt. When you shift your attention from the heaviness toward any thought that feels slightly better, you begin changing your inner algorithm. You stop being fed the same emotional content. You start noticing opportunities and moments of alignment that were always there, but were previously hidden behind the noise of your worry. This is why small emotional improvements matter so much. When you choose a thought that feels even a little lighter, you change the direction of your inner movement. You turn toward relief, and once you are facing relief, life begins to flow. You become aware of signs and synchronicities that feel almost impossible to call coincidences. Timing lines up, counters feel guided, solutions appear without force. Begin sensing the orchestration that has always been present. It is not new. You are simply now in the emotional range where you can perceive it. When you are in resistance, even kindness feels suspicious. When you are in alignment, even tiny details feel meaningful. The universe has always been in conversation with you. You'll just hear it more clearly when you are not arguing with your own emotional guidance. You are not meant to live in fear or confusion. You are not meant to fight your way through each day. We're created in joy and designed for joy. Not the artificial kind that demands perfection, but the natural kind that arises when you stop pushing against yourself. Joy is the result of emotional alignment, not the pressure to be positive. Alignment begins when you let go of explanations that tighten your chest and reach for thoughts that create space. You do not need to force gratitude. You only need to choose a thought that feels like relief. That single move starts a chain reaction that changes how your entire system responds to life. When you take emotional pressure off yourself, you stop treating every moment as life or death. Stop thinking that one wrong move can ruin everything. You stop fearing outcomes the way you once did. You begin to see that you are supported by something larger than whatever problem you are temporarily facing. You start feeling the truth that your existence is continuous, that your consciousness does not end, that you cannot get this wrong, and you cannot run out of time. When that understanding settles into your body, you stop gripping so tightly. You breathe more icily. You move through life with more calm. You approach each moment with less urgency and more trust. When fear loses its power, joy becomes natural again. And once joy becomes natural, clarity follows. When you are emotionally aligned, inspiration arrives without force. You know what to do next without needing to overthink it. You feel drawn toward what feels good rather than running from what feels bad. You begin choosing from alignment instead of reacting from fear. This is when life becomes easier in ways that feel almost surreal. You realize that the universe is not random. It is responsive. It is intelligent. It is compassionate. It is organizing around you in ways you could never calculate. Not because you are lucky, but because you are emotionally open enough to receive the orchestration that has always been trying to reach you. You are not here to fight through life. You are here to experience the kind of joy that only alignment creates. You were not born to manage problems. You were born to explore, expand, feel, create, and choose. And every time you choose a thought that brings relief instead of tension, you return to that original design. You return to the emotional place where life begins supporting you again. Stop repeating the stories that weigh you down. You release the need to explain what is wrong. Stop feeding realities you do not want to live. And you begin choosing, deliberately and gently, the emotional signals that shape the reality you actually want to walk into. This is not a trick. It is not a ritual. It is not a technique. It is how your consciousness naturally works when you stop fighting yourself. You are not at the mercy of your reality. You are shaping it through every emotional interaction. And the moment you realize that, you take back the freedom that was always yours. It's not by force, not by control, not by pressure, by presence, by awareness. By choosing where your attention goes and what you no longer allow to take up space inside you. When you reach for even a small amount of emotional relief, you begin rewriting the entire stream of what life sends your way. And slowly, gently, consistently, you find yourself living in a reality that feels like a true reflection of who you are.